All right. So thank you guys for joining on right now. Welcome to the Craft Factory, stepping into the factory for another webinar. So it's pretty much what this webinar is consisting of today. Literally is just a jam-packed hour. Won't hold you long. Just of our special guests and just us pouring into you guys and just enlightening you guys with whatever God gives us and whatever we have. And so I appreciate the guys, the people that are watching right now, and including the millions of people that are actually going to watch the replay that will be on the website later. And so just a little bit about the Craft Factory. First, I am the founder, Cecil Williams, and we got started in 2017. We literally started with 5 people in attendance with our first workshop event. And so, but with that, we kept going and we kept growing. And from there, we went from 5 to 25, and then we went to 75, and then we eventually sold out of the venue that we were at, and then we moved, and then we did our first in-person workshop in LA, and then things kept going and moving. And then this year, though, we've taken a more strategic approach with what we've done, and so this year we really want to tackle just the heart of the creative and the mind of the creative. And so what that looks like is a lot of times we spend a lot of time focusing on the gifts and the platform and how to get to A, B, and C. And that's great. But at the same time, we're not really focusing on the fact that creatives go through the most mental warfare. We're not focusing on the fact that sometimes we deal with the most offenses. We deal with stuff and we're still people. And that's really the theme and the focus that we are after this year. So through this webinar, our prayer is simply for you guys to be, again, enlightened, but also opened up in a way to where it's not just what you post. It's not just uploading something, but everything you do is actually connected to your identity. And so in the last month, we had our friend Evan Brown on, and he shared his piece, and he did an amazing job just enlightening us on, what you do is just more than a photo, And this month, though, we have our special guest, Justin Foster, on, who's out of Atlanta, resides in Atlanta, attends All Nations Atlanta. And little side note, I attend San Bernardino, so praise God for that. And so through that, he's able to do some amazing things. And so today is just simply about realizing how it's okay to do stuff in excellence as a kingdom creative, and to really not apologize for that either. We are so used to people feeling like they just have to do something for the glory of God, but not realizing that there is excellence behind that too. And so with that being said, I want to bring Justin on. How you feeling, Justin?
I feel good. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So real quick, just I guess briefly tell us who you are, why do you do what you do, and literally how did you get started doing what you do now?
My name is Justin. I have been creative all of my life. When I was younger, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't know early on that I wanted to be a graphic designer, but I did know that I was creative as a young child. I've always had the gift of drawing. I started drawing when I was in about the first grade, and by the time I got to middle school, I realized that it wasn't just something fun to do. It was something that I had a gift for. I began to excel in it tremendously. By the time I got into high school, I took some art electives, and my art teachers were like, you are phenomenal. Everybody else was taking art to get their credits, but I was in there. I used to stay after school with my art teacher trying to figure out how I could be better at drawing. So by the time my senior year in high school came, I was like, you know what? I want to be an artist. That's my dream. So I started scouting out schools. I had a lot of design schools in mind, SCAD, Art Institute of Atlanta, different schools. And I ended up going to, I researched in Auburn University in Auburn, Alabama, had an amazing fine arts program. So I ended up going there. I stayed in the fine arts department for about a year and a half. One day I went into, one of my friends was taking a design course, and I went to the building with her, and I saw some of the work on the walls. And I was like, this looks so cool. I want to switch my major. So
Wow.
I went and talked to some of the professors, and it just so happened that in order to get a graphic design degree from the school, you had to do at least 2 years of fine art under your belt. So after I completed my second year, I switched my major to graphic design, and ever since then, I loved it. So fast forward, I graduated in 2011 in August. Um, I applied at tons of design firms, tons. Like, you name a firm in Atlanta, and I applied. I applied. I mean, I was applying at like Coca-Cola. I applied for Time Warner. And everybody was telling me that I was really good. I would always get the same answer every time I finished the interview, that I was really good, but I just didn't have the experience. One of my last interviews was with Delta Airlines for their marketing department. I did a 3-step interview with them. I did a phone interview with them. They actually called me in to do an in-person interview. They called me back in to show me the office space and to do more interviews. And they called me back and said, Justin, we love you. You are amazing, but we need someone with experience. So I ended up moving back home for a season. And one of my friends was telling me about this job at Enterprise. I didn't have no money, so I was like, I gotta work.
Right.
So I applied to Enterprise in a car. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was gonna be washing cars. Ended up getting the job there, and I started. While I was there, I was just like, God, I got this degree. I got to do this some kind of way. I didn't go to school for nothing. So I would work my 9 to 5 at Enterprise. I would come home, and on the side, I would still do graphic design, building my clientele and trying to network. So my 4th year at Enterprise, I ended up getting let go from my job. They fired me one day. It was in April. They fired me.
You remember the month.
I'm very detailed. I remember everything. I remember them. I remember because I had organized a really large worship concert in my hometown. It was Tasha, Kiera, Benita, and a young lady by the name of Marika Chisholm. And they fired me. I went to put the concert on. I went into my bank account. I almost emptied my bank account to do this concert. And they fired me a week before. They fired me the Monday before the concert.
Wow.
And so after that, I was just like, where I'm from, my hometown, there is really no opportunity for what I majored in.
Yeah.
So I was like, God, what do you want me to do? So I said, I'm going to give it a try. This entrepreneurship thing a try. I was kind of forced into it. And I've been doing it ever since. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for about 5 years. And God has afforded me some amazing opportunities and some amazing connections to be able to do what I do. I recently relocated to Atlanta almost 3 years ago to serve here in my church, All Nations Atlanta. And I've been here in the city of Atlanta doing this since then.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, like, literally, but before, because you've been doing this for 5 years, so really, but before that, it really took a long time to even get to that point. Like, obviously, there was a lot in that space, and so, what I really want to, like, my first question, what I really want to tackle is like, what, in your perspective, what was that like as far as spiritually? What kind of things that you had to process through to make sure that, okay, this is what this is, I can identify that and how to tackle that? Because as creatives, sometimes we face a hardship or we face a wall, but we never really identify what type of wall that is. Like, we never identify, okay, what am I processing? Am I processing the rejection part of this? Am I offended because of this? Like, when it comes to identifying the real issue of it, how did you manage to get to doing all of this, working at Enterprise, finding your side hustle, all that stuff, and then you created that side hustle, and then you grew that into a full-fledged entrepreneurship brand? Like, what was that like, trying to identify the things that the enemy was trying to throw at you in that process?
I left out a lot of the meat of what I went through. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of people, because we live in a world of social media, and social media is rewarding, but it can be crippling, because with social media, you have the power to tell people what you want to tell them. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when you don't disclose all of the details, you give people a false reality of what it takes. And a lot of people dive into some things thinking it's one way, and then when they dive in it on their own, they figure out it's another way. And you have a lot of people who aren't prepared because we haven't given them the necessary details that go along with your story. Along with all of that, when I was my senior year in high school, I went into my senior year in high school. I'm from a small family. It's me, my
Mm-hmm.
mom, my two brothers, and my sister, and it was my father.
Mm-hmm.
And my senior year in high school is when everything kind of took a weird shift in my family. I went into my senior year in high school trying to get ready, trying to figure out what college I was going to go to. And in the middle of the school year, my oldest brother had a heart attack in his apartment in North Carolina. He died. It was so weird for my family. We had never experienced anything like that. It was so sudden and nobody expected it. It was hard for us to process, all while me trying to get ready to do something in my life that I felt like was on the pinnacle of something great. Like, you don't expect something like that to happen
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of something that you feel like great is about to happen.
Yeah.
So we dealt with that. I almost missed almost all of my senior year in high school. I tell people now that my senior year in high school was almost like a blur. I don't even remember going to school that much.
Wow.
It was so it was just so great.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And so I went to school. Being transparent, my mother and father both. My mom was on Social Security by the time I was in second grade. My father was on Social Security by the time I was in the fifth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have that much money. My mom's check was probably $800 a month, and my dad was like $750.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to college, I had to work two jobs. I had a full-time job at Office Depot. I was working, and I also had a full-time work study job. And I had a full schedule. My first 2 years in college, I did like 16 credits per year. And so within the second year of my when I was a sophomore in college, my father died in December, 2 weeks before Christmas in that year. So I had to come back home. I was in school. I had to drive back and forth, come back home, check on my mom because my father had passed. And so after I graduated, I made it through that. After I graduated, when that time frame, I was unemployed for 16 months when I moved back home. I graduated in 2011. I didn't get hired at Enterprise until 2012. So when I moved back home, I couldn't figure out why I could not find a job. I was like, Lord, now
Listen.
I was like, I know I am good. I cannot figure like why isn't anybody hiring me? So I moved back home. I ended up getting hired at Enterprise on June 26th. I'll never forget the day.
That's amazing.
And I went to do the training. It was like a week training. Went to do the training, came back home. I got back home. It was a Tuesday in July. The 4th of July was on that Thursday. Came back home, and my older brother died at home with me and my mom on the 4th of July. And after that, because I was a new hire, I only had like 6 days of leave during that. So I only had just like enough time to do the funeral, and I had to come straight back to work, straight out of training. So it was like a blur. I was like, in that time frame from July to October, I gained almost 90 pounds. I was so depressed. I couldn't figure out like why God would let all this stuff happen to me.
Yeah.
My dream was to move to Atlanta. I couldn't figure out, like, I was like, God, I thought I was going to go to college and move straight to Atlanta. And I began to be angry with God and angry at myself. I felt like I was trying to replay back in my mind, what did I do wrong? Did I hear God wrong? Should I have been more attentive to other skill sets that I thought that I were good? I felt like I focused on one thing and I should have been focused on something else. Did I make the wrong move or make the wrong turn? When I after all of that, when I was in a service, my pastor, Pastor LeBron, I met him about 4 or 5 years ago. I had flew me into Arizona where he was living at the time. I had did conferences with him and all that. And he told me he was moving to Atlanta. And me being the person I am, I just wanted to support him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna come support the church or whatever. I had never heard of Dr. Matthew Stevens or nothing like that. So
Right.
he
Yeah.
came down and he said, Justin, we having this Monday night madness service, like to just jumpstart the church out. You should come or whatever and chill out. So I actually went to the service, and that night Apostle preached about I'll never forget, he preached about making sure that you are in the right tent. And at the end of the sermon, Apostle was like, you know, we're about to go into a moment of intercession. And he was like, God is about to give people direction and he's about to give people instructions. So I've been in church all my life. I was like,
Right. This is routine. All right, let me lift my hands.
I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But Apostle started praying and the spirit of prayer fell in the room so heavy and I began to weep and the Lord told me to leave Alabama. And it burdened me so bad. My Pastor LeBron, saw me in the audience weeping. And after the service, he told me, he said, Justin, can you spend the night? And we meet tomorrow about what you heard in this service. And I said, okay, cool. I cried all night. I could not even drive home. I had to spend the night. The next day I met with him and I was telling him what God was saying. And he told me, he said, well, we'll try to figure out a plan. It was in November. Wow. He was like, we'll try to figure out a plan that you come to Atlanta by March, since you're with your mom. My mom was at home. Like my brother, my father, all those had passed. Only living sibling that I have now is my sister. Wow. And so he was like, to transition you out from your mom, we'll bring you in like twice a month. I'll get you a rental. We'll bring you in twice a month. That way you won't have to leave your mom so quick. I was like, okay, cool. So I was driving home and the Lord spoke to me again and was like, you have to leave now. Wow. Like, you have to get out. You have to get out before the end of the year. And it was like November. It was like it was after Thanksgiving. It was like the end of November. So I went home and I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I went to this service in Georgia and the Lord told me to leave. And so my mom told me, she said, well, if God told you to leave, it's time for you to go. So I emptied my bank account. I came back to Atlanta the next week. Pastor helped me find an apartment. I found me an apartment. I went back home. That following week, I came back and I spent all of my savings and bought like furniture and everything for my apartment. And the Tuesday after Christmas, I left and moved to Atlanta. And I talk about all that because you were talking about one of the things that you fight through. And the thing that I fought the most on my journey was fear. And my relationship with God, I thought that God had, before I moved to Atlanta, it's like when I moved to Atlanta, a whole lot of questions that I had began to be answered. But before that, I felt like God was angry with me, like I had did something wrong. And that I just felt like he wasn't listening to me. I felt like I was in a weird spot where I was just roaming and doing things and not really seeing any fruit. I was very discouraged. I was very depressed. Yeah. But when I moved to Atlanta, so many things became clear for me. I realized that I could move to Atlanta when I first graduated because of the series of events that happened after I came back home with my brother. I realized that I had to work at Enterprise for a season, but because it taught me discipline, it taught me things about my business now that I implement that I learned in that place. It taught me humility. I learned how to be humble. I learned how to be a leader at Enterprise. I learned how to serve well. I learned how to interact with people. All those qualities that I needed, that I learned then, now have helped my business to grow. So a lot of things in my life became full circle after that weird, uncomfortable season. And not saying that it's all smooth now, but that season matured me in a place where now I know that when I go through seasons that feel like that, there is something God wants to teach me and show me and mature in me, and I don't grow as weary as I would have because I've already been through a season that was like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually powerful to hear. So do you feel like, in leading into like art and posting and stuff like that, I guess branding things, do you feel like that's how important is to involve that or to keep that in the forefront as far as your art when you do your art? Because for me, what I found with creatives is that sometimes you can tell when a person still needs to be processed through some things based on what they post, based on what they release. And that goes across the board as creator. I don't care if you're a music artist, a producer, a graphic designer, branding, whatever it is. There's a level of healing that happens that's shown through your art. So how do you feel when you see creatives, or do you see creatives in that light where it's like, okay, you see them do stuff and you can kind of see where they need the healing, or you see that they're still processing through that stuff? Like, how important is that to make sure like you're still allowing God to process you even while you're doing what you do? And in your case is branding and marketing and things of that nature. But how important is that to allow God to still process you while you're still being called?
A lot of times it's trial and error.
Yeah.
When I started, the one thing you really want to do is as you go along your journey is always to allow yourself space to mature, and to grow up. When I first started off, I was really immature in a lot of different places. And I feel like a lot of creatives, especially from the ages of like 18 to 27,
Yeah.
are really in that space where they're kind of like radical. Like you're not really guarded on what you say. And when I first started, like even when I would use the example of me doing flyers, I felt like, if I felt like somebody copied off me, I want to tell people that they copied.
Yeah.
You want to clap back. You want to talk. Like I used to get on Twitter was popular.
Yeah.
You used to get on there and talk about other people's work or post other people's work to make it look like you knew more than the next. And a lot of those things, I had to learn and I had to mature myself, because I realized that doing those things, because a lot of people feel like the misconception about what we do is that our brand is just simply flyers and a logo and letterheads and all that good stuff. But our brand is really who we are in person. It's it's how we make people feel. It's what people remember about us when they walk up to us and have a conversation. It's your Facebook post. It's your statuses. It's what you give people. And a lot of creatives are extreme. I tell people all the time, we do not lack talent in our generation. There are talented people on every corner. Everybody does flyers. Everybody is a singer. Everybody is a preacher. There's no lack in the ability. The lack is in the character and the growth and the maturity. There are few people who are mature enough to handle the assignments that they're given. Nobody wants to be matured. Nobody wants to be cut. Nobody wants to be processed. So with that, I feel like there is a level and there's processing isn't really a destination. Like you're never beyond being processed. You're never beyond learning. You're never beyond growing. So always making yourself available that, number one, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Number two, I can't talk about everything. I can't associate myself with everybody.
Yeah.
I have to guard the gift that is on my life. I have to guard my pour. I have to guard my ear gate and my eye gate, what I receive, what I look, what I view. It's not about who following you. Who are you following? Who do you take advice from? Who are you gleaning from? Who are you looking to? And just making sure that you're mature enough to have yourself open enough that you're aware of those things, because they affect your business. They affect your brand. They affect the way you move. They affect the way clients look at you, and they affect, because one of the biggest things in marketing is that you're going to get noticed, and that happened with my business, word of mouth. You work with one person, or one person sees you, they're going to tell the next person their experience with you. And we're responsible. A lot of people get mad if me and you had a bad encounter and you tell your encounter with me to someone, people feel like that's messy or that's mean. No, it's our responsibility to control our experiences. We can't control the experience that people tell, but it's our responsibility to make sure that the experience that they tell is a good experience. So that's what I learned on like me building my brand, me getting clients, me trying to get myself out there and create a platform for myself.
And honestly that's attached to being transparent, because you're controlling the narrative. You got to keep that in mind, as far as the more transparent you are, the more you're actually controlling the narrative. You don't allow people to dictate or to try to judge or try to figure out what you do based on what you post, because somebody just told me this the other day, like your purpose is your purpose. It's not your mask. It's not something that you hide behind what you do. Your purpose is actually the thing that showcases who you are. And so going in that, because you're showcasing who you are, like we talk about like mediocrity and the myth that, you know, certain creators feel like, oh, you know, I'm just doing this for the glory of God. And it's like, yeah, do it for the glory of God, but still have structure and still have some substance. What's the biggest misconception that you feel that's still out there when it comes to, let's just take it in the lane of what you do. What's the biggest misconception that you feel people have as far as what you do? And how is that something that can be either rectified, or is that something that just will eventually die out? Like, what to you, when they misconstrued or misunderstood specifically your lane, like what is the common things that you hear, especially even when you're doing business with clients? Like, what is the thing that you feel like that's not is a little bit more deeper? So just elaborate on that if you can.
I think I don't know if I'll call it a misconception, but I would say the thing that has been distorted the most about designers is our value. Yeah. And I feel like that, especially with the church, I feel like that has changed over time. In the past, like for the past 9 years, I tell people all the time that creatives, especially like designers and videographers and those people in those capacities, were almost looked at as like an afterthought. Like we'll include them at the end, or whatever. We'll bring them on, you know, as our last resort. When in this last 2 years, there has been such a great shift, especially in the church world, where the creative, the designer, the videographers are now leading the ministry. Like we are on the forefront, because there has been a revelation that these people carry the wit and the wisdom and the cleverness that we need to evangelize to this world now. So the misconception is that we were an afterthought. And the way we have rectified that is that we presented the gospel, we presented God in a new, fresh, creative way. And I think it has really caught the attention of believers and non-believers. I'm a member of NY ATL, and I cannot tell you how many DMs I get from people when we post things on our Instagram page. They're like, "Oh my God, y'all! I've never seen church look like that." Yeah. I think we have figured out that now. To reach the Bible talks about he who wins souls is wise. And if you look up the definition of wise means to be unconventional, to be clever, to have wit and edge. And I feel like now we have entered into an arena where people are sitting back like, oh, okay, now I get it. It takes I'm not negating the power of the word, but there is a way to present the word, and there is a way to present the Bible and the message of Jesus Christ to catch people. My mom told me, you catch a fish first and then you skin it. And I think that is the job of the creator to do the catching. We present the message of Jesus Christ in such a unique and creative way, and an innovative way that hasn't been seen, that allows what I feel like this next phase of revival to happen in the earth.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know, because you have to do stuff in excellence. And if you can, just elaborate on the importance of doing stuff just in excellence. Like we as kingdom creatives, gifted people who want to serve God with our purpose, with our art, with our gifts, it's sometimes we get caught up in this road of, okay, let's just put some out, just go. But the excellence factor can be missing. The effort can be missing. More so, we put more effort in getting it out than more effort into, okay, getting it right. And so just kind of talk about, like, if there's a process, what that process looks like for you as far as excellence, kingdom excellence. What does that look like in the art? and specifically even in your lane for other graphic designers, other people who are brand strategists, why is excellence such a huge thing, and how can it be missed? Because the people do miss it. People do miss that aspect of doing it 100% excellence and getting it right rather than trying to get it out so quickly. So hopefully that question makes sense, but just elaborate on like just kingdom excellence.
Well, with that, I feel like the lack of excellence comes from people not really understanding their assignment. When you are aware of what you've been called to do, it makes it easy to always have that in the forefront of your mind, that I have to do this with excellence, because it goes beyond a paycheck. It goes beyond clocking in, clocking out. But this is a burden for me. This is an assignment. This is something that God has placed on my back, on my heart, and my spirit. And it is not fulfilled totally if it's not in excellence. That's one thing that grounds me. A lot of creatives, the one thing I see people make the mistake of when they're coming up and when they're doing, whether you're a stylist or videographer or whatever, you give who you think is the celebrity the most of your time, and then you kind of shortchange the person who you feel like doesn't have the capacity to take you anywhere. And with assignment, you don't pick and choose who gets your pour or who gets all of you at that particular moment. Everybody should get the potency of who you are. The storefront church is going to get the same Justin as the mega church, because my assignment doesn't break or dumb down based on who you are or the money that you have. I know what I'm called to do. And with knowing my call and knowing my assignment in the earth and knowing what God has trusted me to do, I'm always going to make sure that I am trying to represent him as best as I can every time that I do something. And there are moments when I have a whole lot of things to push out, but I never sacrifice my quality to spit out quantity. I always take time to make sure that, and what each piece that I'm doing, is it of kingdom excellence? Like, does it involve all of me? Is all of my mind, am I detached in any way from it? Is there something going on in my mind and my spirit that causes me not to have a connection with what I'm doing at that moment? So I believe it's realizing an assignment. Once you realize that this is an assignment and it is more than a job or occupation, then that level of excellence is automatically attracted to what you do, because you realize that you're doing it for a greater purpose than to just get some money or to just get the next gig. But this is something that I have to do in order to fulfill my purpose. It's a mandate by God. It has been it is, I use the word burden all the time. Not when I say burden, I don't mean like it's something that's just like daunting, but it's something that's always pressing and always pulling at your spirit and always pulling on you to make sure that you are executing in the way that God gives it to you and the way he's assigned it to you in your life.
Yeah. How's, like, for you personally, how does that affect just your daily operations, having that mindset? Like, there obviously there has to been a shift to where it's like, well, not just a job, this is purpose. So because of that shift for you personally, like, when you recognize that shift as far as where your mindset was going when it comes to fulfilling God's purpose, how does that affect you, the person, beyond the art that's released on Instagram, beyond the website? Like, how does that affect Justin in such a way that he can move in freedom and not worry about feeling like it's a job? Because we can get burdened by the weight of it, and then we get drained out. We just tap out, and we're like, all right, I'm tired, I'm done. So how are you able to keep going with that mindset?
It's simple. Rest. I tell people, and that is so simple, but people really don't understand it. There has to be a season that you take time to rest. You are not at your optimum level. You are not as aware. You're not as creative, tired, and drained. Your sensitivity is attacked when you're tired. Your ability to hear and see is attacked when you're tired. So you have to take the proper time to decompress, rest, pull away, and get recharged and refuel. I see people all the time on Instagram and Facebook talking about they always grinding, like I'll sleep later, and that
Yeah.
mindset is totally jacked up. You need sleep now. You need rest now.
Take a
You
nap.
don't need to sit around. Like there needs to be a time where you break and you hear God, not even on a deep level, but just to get instruction, just to get clarity. In moments of rest is when you figure out who I need to work with, who don't I need to work with, what opportunities are beneficial for me, what doors lead to holes when I open them. So all of those things happen when we take the necessary time to pull away, unplug, to really sit with ourselves and to remove ourselves from our gifting, but just to chill out. I struggle with that because I used to always feel like I gotta work, I gotta work, I gotta grind, I gotta climb that ladder. When I had to realize, I went through a season that if God wants me anywhere, He's going to take me whether I'm working or whether I'm resting. He doesn't just work in times of the hustle and the grind. He also works behind the scenes when we sleeping and we resting. So just taking fact and taking rest and knowing that I am allowed, I have grace to take time to step away. Things are not a lot. The misconception is that if I stop working, I'm going to plummet or bottom out. And that fear has caused a lot of creatives to always be in a place of grinding and working and looking for the next thing to do and not taking the necessary time for your mental health, and even your heart health, removing yourself and just sitting with yourself and giving yourself time to breathe and to get a new level of freshness and creativity, because new creativity, new ideas come in seasons of rest. They don't come when you're working. So you just have to stop and remove yourself. Even at my church, we do a lot, but I make sure that in the week I have a day where I don't even look at my church's work. I close my computer and I chill out, whether it's just laying on the bed, whether it's watching Netflix, whether it's going to the movies or something, but removing myself from that so that when I come back, I have new perspective, fresh eyes, fresh outlook, and I'm ready to pour in what I've received, not even in a deep way, but what I've received and what I've let mellow out in my time of rest.
Mm-hmm. And I think that people who are up and coming, they feel like that rest thing is such a non-existent thing because they say, oh, well, you could do that now because, you're settled and you're more, settled financially and blah blah blah, but the truth of the matter is like no, like you need it now. Like even when you're up and coming, even when you are just starting out, you still need to manage your rest because like you said, that's where the creativity comes from. And so for me, I've always come to the terms like if God can give you grace in this while you're working, then God will definitely give you grace in your rest. Like, what I'm saying? It's very possible. So moving into like the practical side of things, like when what you do obviously is showcased on social media, more specifically Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And so when you look at things on social media, is there such a thing as whether it is as far as structure, but what ways do you feel like people can improve on structuring their social media when it comes to even what you do as far as graphic designing and branding and stuff like that? How important is it to make sure, or is it important to make sure that your social media is organized? And a lot of people don't really get the whole, what your social media organized, they just post. But there is an organization aspect to it. Some pages you might want to look clean. So talk about or elaborate on what does that look like as far as organizing your social media when it comes to branding and literally marketing what you do?
I think the first thing that people need to do is to really sit down with themselves and say, hey, okay, before I get on social media, what is it that I want people to know about me?
Yeah.
If I'm a hairstylist, then I want people to know I'm a hairstylist. What does that look like for me? If I'm a graphic designer, if I go to your page and you say you are one thing, but I go on there and I see no traces of who you say you are, then it's pointless.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people do that. They sporadically get on Instagram and they post things, and you leave people confused. You're at church and you tell somebody you should book me to do hair, and I go on your Instagram page. And I don't see food. You got shopping, but there is no trace of what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to be bothered.
Right.
And so I think that you need to, after you figure out what is it you want people to know about you, how do I show that in an excellent way? And I say excellent because if I'm a hairstylist and I want people to know that I style hair, I'm not going to be posting pictures of my clients in my living room with clothes all over the floor.
Less.
And you're expecting people to book you. There's a level of quality that you have to do. So
Yeah.
you have to compare. So if I want to post and tell people that I do hair, I'm going to contact me I'm going to do some hair. I'm going to contact me a professional photographer to go in the studio and to take some pictures. That way, that when people are looking on my page or what I do, it shows that number one, I do what I do. Number two, I care about what I do. And number three, I have invested in myself, which should open up the door for you to say, hey, they invested in what they're doing. I'm going to invest in them. And that's the same, even with what I do. I do a whole lot of projects from people that I don't even know I work with. I work with small churches, large churches, small businesses, large businesses. But I am very strategic about what I post on my Instagram because I know the type of people that I want to attract and I know the audience that I'm trying to get through.
Yeah.
And I know that if I post some of the things that are not so fitting to my brand, that I'm going to attract a whole slew of people that I have no desire to work with. Wow. So it's about being strategic about learning and knowing and figuring out who your audience is and being able to cater to them.
Yeah.
And once you figure out that, then you'll be able to better establish a flow of what you post. But there should be some trace of what you do on social media somewhere within that week. You should be actively posting. If you are a baker, you should be actively posting desserts, something that you've made. If you are a hairstylist, I should be able to go on in the first 2 rows of your Instagram. I should be able to tell that this guy is a barber. They are excellent. They are good. Because truth of the matter is, if I'm doing a referral and I'm on the phone, I've had, for instance, I just did some things for Tasha Cobbs for her clothing line. She was like, hey, Justin, I need a web designer. Well, if I'm sending Tasha referral, she only got like 2 seconds to get her phone and pull up somebody. And if she don't see something that sparks her interest in 3 seconds, while she's scrolling, she's gonna be like, I'm not gonna be bothered with it. So making sure that you're actively showing and showcasing what it is that you do and showcasing the best of who you are. If you know we all got days where we not as good as we think we are. If you know it ain't the bomb, don't waste your time putting it out there.
Listen.
Be strategic and knowing what I want to post, because when people see that, they have no other way of knowing what you do and who you are by only what you give them. So if they're going on your page and they're looking for something, what you post is what they're going to believe in. So you got to make sure that whatever you're putting out is strategic to who you are and it showcases the best of who you are at all times.
Yeah. And that's so true, and it's important to showcase the best of who you are. I know, and I used to be that person to post something and they be like, well, so what do you do again? Like, because I would say something totally different. And so how important, because I notice, and obviously with your page and a lot of people follow you, you are, as far as graphic designers, the most transparent graphic designer I've ever met when it comes to just being yourself. And so how important, but I notice you do it more on your story than the feed. Now, my question to you is, what is the difference, or what factors can you use to take advantage of the story versus the feed? Because one thing last month, that Evan Brown said that was really captured our attention was, your feed is more of like your magazine, but the story, your IG story, is more of your reality. So talk about like how important it is to make sure you use both in excellence, and make sure that's something that you never feel like, okay, well, nobody's gonna pay attention to my story, so let me just post whatever on my feed. But that shouldn't be the case. So just elaborate on the importance of both.
Well, I would take it even step. I love that analogy. The analogy that I would use is that my feed is more so the movie, and my story is like the behind the scenes. Yeah. So what I do on my feed is give you like the highlight reel
Yeah.
But on my story, I'm going to give you a little bit more of my process. I'm going to involve you more because the story also opens up for a dialogue. A lot of people aren't going to want to ask you as many questions as they would ask you on your feed because of other people reading it. But in your story, you open up another level of transparency for yourself and for the people who are following you.
Yeah.
It creates intimacy. People buy into transparency. I learned that alone. I used to one of the main things that God was dealing with me about when I first moved to Atlanta and when I was like, I'm gonna be a graphic designer. The Lord, I sat down one day and the Lord said, what are you good at? A lot of times we don't like to say that. Like, what I literally was sitting in the house talking to myself, like,
Right.
what is it that buys people into you?
Yeah.
It's something, because there are a lot of graphic design, but what makes people come to you? Like, and I learned early on, it was my ability to talk to people in a way that made them feel like I'm from Alabama. And I think that's one thing that drew me to my church is that my first lady is from my pastor and first lady are both from Alabama, but my first lady is from Selma. She's from the same town, and there's just this. I think it's just this southern hospitality thing about me where I make people feel like they're like my cousin. Like most of my, if you talk to almost any of my clients, they will tell you that by the time we are off the phone, we have talked about nothing that has anything to do with graphic design because I made people feel warm and inviting. And once I figured out that was my secret sauce, I maximized on that. I wanted people to know who I really was. I wanted people to know that I struggle with stuff, that I don't got money all the time. Sometimes I'm struggling to pay my bills. Sometimes it's hard. I want people to know that, I got Tasha Cobbs as a client, but
we still
when I first moved to Atlanta in November, my lights got cut off. So I want people to know all of it. And when you are transparent and when you're honest, people buy into that honesty because they know they can trust you. And that's what I use my story for. I try to be as transparent as possible and to give people the truth. That's why I tell people all the time, if you want to talk to somebody about entrepreneurship, do not call me, because I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you it's hard. Struggle, it get on my nerves sometimes. I be want to quit almost every month. It makes me sick. I be want to cuss clients out when I hang up the phone. I can't. I don't want to be bothered. A lot of times I don't even open up my computer. Most of the times I do it because I got bills. So I tell you all of that. I tell you need to save before you quit your job. You need to have money in the bank, all of that stuff. So I'm as transparent as I possibly can because I don't want people to buy into a lie, and I want people to be prepared for this journey. And I don't want people to go into it thinking that it's something that is not. It's amazing. Entrepreneurship is so rewarding. I love it. I've tried to quit so many times, and I've applied to
on a consistent basis. I try.
I called my pals when my first year up here. I called my pals. I said, "Hey, I've put in 2 applications to Marriott. I can't do this no more. Like I'm tired. My benefit. I ain't have no. See, people don't talk about stuff like this. I ain't have no health insurance for 2 years. I was like, I ain't got no health insurance. It's too expensive. I can't afford it. It would just be more benefiting if I just quit this and I just go work." And the more I tried to do that, the more I saw that wasn't for me, that there was a grace for me on what I do. But it's just overcoming those challenges. So that's why I'm transparent. I want to be the one who's there to help people overcome and to walk them through and let them know, hey, this is normal. Just because you feel that way doesn't mean that you're not called to do it, but it's just a hurdle that you're going to get over. And so, yeah, your feed is your movie, and your story is your behind the scenes, your real.
The way the kingdom works, like I've been told growing up, is like the way the kingdom's upside down. A lot of times the America thinks of one way, but really it's the opposite. Honor will get you up, and serving will elevate you. All this stuff that we have kind of watered down are actually the things that will lift you up. So when you talk about transparency, it's amazing. Like people, I'm not even saying 90%, but a high majority of gifted Christians run away from honesty. And it's such a crazy thing to think about in the kingdom context, because honesty is the very thing that actually will catapult you. As much and as fearful as we view it, it's the very thing that will lift you up. And so it's just important that yeah, like you said, we are able to be transparent and realize that through our transparency, that is the thing that will get people. That is the thing that will make people relate to you. Is not really necessarily the gift. It's not all the glitz and the glamour. It's not really what you post as far as, oh, that's a dope graphic. It's what you say beyond that. It's what you do after that, as far as what you're able to reveal. So it's being able to just really, really cancel out that fear of feeling like our dirt. Because Christians, we feel like it's dirt. We're releasing dirt. And it's like, no, like if you are able to tell on yourself as far as like, I'm me, I still have a life. You know what I'm saying? I still struggle. I still have issues. And when you're able to do that, it's such an actual secret weapon to what you do. So real quickly, I know we're winding down. What's the biggest thing that you are looking forward to for you personally, and then creatively, if that makes sense? What is the biggest thing in your next phase, next season that God is bringing you into? What do you feel like you're looking forward to?
Personally, I'm looking forward to ownership. It has been really pressing upon me to own property. So I've been really, that's been like the goal of mine this year, is to really position myself in a place financially and um, just in a personal place, to be in a place where I'm ready to step into that next place.
Yeah.
Creatively, it would be to expand my reach. When I got into this industry, I had a lot of gospel connects and church connects, and so it just kind of happened that way. And I kind of got my feet in the gospel industry, and I feel like I've made a significant mark here. But now I think that I'm looking forward to really stepping beyond that place and go into a whole new market. I'm not sure how that's going to happen or the way it's going to happen, but I am looking forward to expanding my reach as it relates to my audience.
That's dope. That's dope. And one of my final questions is, what is something that you hope to see in creatives, just creatives in general? What's the number one thing that you hope to see that God will do for creatives across the board, and more specifically in your field, when you see people that are in the same thing that you do? What's the number one thing that you look forward to for them?
I'm looking forward to the level of respect to be raised for people who do what I do. And people to have an even greater awareness that these people are extremely necessary, and what they carry is special. It's very special. And for creatives like me, designers, to realize that they are special. A lot of times you get into the hustle of it and the fast pacedness of it, that you forget how unique and how necessary and how amazing humans we are. Like, we are amazing. We create things out of nothing. We execute ideas in a way that nobody can, and I really want that respect and that awareness to be heightened with people who are looking, and for the creative themselves, to realize that what I have is a gift. It can, you can teach. I can teach skill, but the sauce that I have, that the flair that I have, the experience that I have from life that I implement in my work cannot be taught. And every creative has that sparkle, that gift, that special sauce about what they're doing. And I just want every creator to realize that that is different, that you don't have to be like anybody else, that there is something so unique and crazy about you that the world is literally have their arms stretched out waiting for you to be who you are. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And that's the key thing, is for creatives to gain that respect through the art. But again, like you said earlier, like, you only are able to just receive that respect the more you just be you and be transparent with what you do. I believe that art is what we do whether it's graphic designing, spoken word, music, whatever creative gift that God has given you,
Yeah.
it's not just doing. It's more just the more honest you are with what you do, the more it takes you. And so I think that people will understand that once they realize, like, just be yourself. We are struggling. We are we get pissed off. We probably want to cut somebody out right now. But the truth of the matter is that when you're able to be honest with God and be like, look, this is where I'm at. It's so you'll be amazed at what God will do just with that. Like, just for you to open your mouth and say, hey, look, I need help. And sometimes creatives have that really big pride issue with that. Like, just say you need help. You know, as gifted as you are, you still need help. And so so it's been a really, really humbling pleasure just to listen to you, to just watch your journey. You personally have followed your journey, and when you, of course, join NYTL, to really just see you move and operate, man, is really an honor. And so I definitely appreciate this time for you to come on and really just share you and share not just what you do, but as far as how you got there, the level it takes to remain there, and what it's going to take to keep going forward. So I appreciate you, man. We love you. We thank God for your gift, and not just your gift, but just you, the heart, the mind of the creative. And so I definitely appreciate that. Is there any upcoming things, any upcoming projects, any upcoming conferences that you will be at? I know Fire Conference is coming up. So I know that's something that you definitely in that side are promoting as well. So anything that you guys and that you personally are doing?
Not right now. Fire is probably going to be the only thing.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I'm just chilling. Like I said, I'm chilling out, and I'm just enjoying the ride and not putting too much pressure on myself and just having fun.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's what it takes. So, where can we find you? What's your contact info? How can we find you? How can we look you
My
up?
handle is universal across the board. So on Instagram, whatever, it's JUS10 Foster, Foster. And my website is www.justinfoster.com, JUS10 Foster.com. And you can see my work, my rates, all that is on there. So
awesome. And guys, his website is really, really amazing. And remember, it is just number 10. I have failed many times when I was hitting this brother up because I kept putting TIN. I'm like, why is he not popping up? What's going on? And so I had to go back every single time to your website and be like, oh, just number 10.
Yeah.
Like, so again, we thank you. Thank you guys for just this opportunity just to come on a Saturday morning, this quick hour of pouring and encouragement. We thank the most of you that will come on the replay and watch this. As this is recorded, this will be up during the week on the website for you guys to catch the replay. So again, Justin, we thank you. We love you. And just keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is amazing. We can't wait for Fire Conference. And hopefully we will see you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Justin. Peace.